When I was 18, I started to hear voices and I started to feel quite anxious and depressed over certain things. And I started to behave quite badly and I'll just kick off over the slightest of things. At the time, I had some great support from Bias and I had a good few hours of psychology with a good therapist. But at the time, I ended up getting kicked out of home because, well, my family didn't love me anymore, basically, uh, even though I still love them back. But I ended up moving out and going to a residential place where I had my own place with 24 hours support. Um, but then that got closed down, which made me feel unhappy and depressed. After that, I ended up going to shared living, which is a scheme for fostering for grown-ups basically. But again, I didn't enjoy that. I was feeling quite angry all the time because of things they'd make me do, like they wanted me to call them dad and that sort of thing, despite them not being my parents. So I ended up kicking off again to the point where I did quite a bit of criminal damage basically. And so I got kicked out. The police were involved, and I got kicked out of there. I got sent to a homeless shelter nearby, and I was living on the streets for about 4 or 5 months. And I was doing quite a lot of weed at the time. And I remember feeling very low, very anxious, very scared, very cold. And it took a while for a support worker to actually get me into a different place. So I was in another residential place with 30-hour support, and this time I was living with another guy there as well. But he moved out when they said I burnt his hands, and I got arrested for that. And then in 2016, I was walking with my uncle. My uncle wanted me to do quite well. He wanted me to be safe, really. But for whatever reason, I couldn't move in with him. But we went walking quite often, and we were walking along this route we usually go, and the footing underneath me just gave way. So I ended up falling down and breaking my leg, which I was sent to hospital for that for about 6 months. Then when I got discharged from there, I wasn't quite right mentally anyway. So I was put on a section 2. And then I was taken to the Horizon Centre in Wakefield, where I was assessed again. And I was put on a section 3. And I was there for 3 months. At the time, I was feeling quite depressed and quite on edge and very angry because the psychiatrist I had at the time either didn't understand me or didn't believe anything I was saying. But then the intensive support team came in and they understood, the ITS really understood where I was coming from, and they really wanted to help me, and they wanted me to get forward a plan so I could actually leave the hospital. The treatment plan was put together for me to leave the hospital and go back to my bungalow. And I had a lot of support again from a different team, this time from a different service provider. And they came to meet me in the hospital, which was great. And when I was discharged, they gave me another 30-hour support week, which I really needed at the time. And that really helped with things like house chores and money problems and sorting out my finances. And they even took me out on activities and just helped me through the week, really. And they didn't really stop there. They also gave me an occupational therapist who would come round, and we'd either do things at home or they'd bring me out to do things elsewhere. And there was also a community nurse that came around quite frequently. And I also had a great psychology team who I saw quite often as well. But the bungalow was doing my head in, really, because the walls were that thin. I could hear what my neighbour was doing all day and all night. And although I was getting some great support, and I really did appreciate that, the place was just doing my head in. I just had to get out of there. Thankfully, the support workers listened to me and they made the first steps to get me into a new tenancy. And whilst they were doing that, I was also looking out for people to live with, and they were also looking for people to live with as well, because it can be quite lonely living on your own, especially when you're someone like me. And I eventually met this guy who I really got on well with, and we decided we'd, fancy living together basically. And so in December 2017, I was put into a new house, and a few days later, this guy moved in as well, and I got to meet his family, and it was really, really good. The support we had was excellent. We had people there all day, staff all day, and they also slept in the house at night as well. So I just felt really safe, really relaxed. It was the best I felt for a long time. And for some reason, I don't know why, but the guy I was living with left for some unknown reason. So I never saw him again or his family. So at the time I felt quite unhappy and again angry about it all, but I had a great team around me to talk things over and get my thoughts and feelings out, which was, great. Since moving, my life has just gotten better and better, really. The support I've had from a psychology point of view has just been excellent, and they've really helped me relax, and I know some great techniques now which I can use to make myself relax when I'm on my own, which has been a great help. So I'm not feeling half as anxious as I did before. And also I'm on the right medication now, and I've got a really good appointee who helps me with my finances, make sure my debts are, paid for and that sort of thing. So I'm not as stressed as I used to be, which is, brilliant for someone like me. And this last year, I just feel like I'm almost reinventing myself in a way, because I've gotten back into things I used to do, like writing and drawing. I do quite a lot now, and I really miss that. And I just feel like I'm in the right place where I can start over again. I have a support team who are brilliant when they're with me, and they make me feel brilliant. I just love working with them. And I've managed to reduce the actual support I need on a day-to-day basis. It started off with me getting rid of the sleep-in that was in my house, and I've also managed to reduce the hours of care I actually need. The IST don't see me as often as they used to, because I feel now I can cope a lot more on my own. I've always got people there to guide me through the good and the bad days, really. And writing my story, it has triggered some memories and has brought up quite a lot of anxieties, but I've got a good team around me to make me feel better, I suppose. And they're there to put my past in perspective and me to understand my past. And because of that, I do feel really good. And I'm just grateful for everyone, especially Gwen, Gareth and Stephen for helping me as much as they have. And although I am very tired, this is the best I've felt in a very long time.